Listen, I'm no quitter. This has been quite an evening for going live. Jeez. My gosh. Am I around St. Louis because a storm hit me just after it hit you? It's cool if you keep your location private. I'm in Pennsylvania. So is that near St. Louis? I guess. St. Louis. No, I'm thinking about Louisville. When we took a road trip down somewhere, we went through Louisville. It was one of the most blandest drives I've ever done. All right. So here's the thing. Thanks for coming back, Sati. And for anybody who comes back, my internet is on solar power stations. But if I lose power again, then I'm going to lose the lights. So I'm going to just be sitting here in the dark. Man, welcome back. I'm no quitter, man. I was sitting here like, I just, why even bother at this point? But I was trying to figure out lighting and stuff like that. I've never done a live in here. I'm not crazy about how this looks, but it doesn't look complete garbage. So it's fine. Oh man. Okay. What a series of events, right? Oh my gosh. All right. I can't have this vibrating on the table. I hit my wife up and I was like, okay. Do I have about 20 minutes to kind of like try and wrap this thing up before you guys get back? Because once they come back, it's not necessarily going to be crazy or anything, but you know, it's 5 people joining the lower area. I think it's kind of hard to just transition into talking about what I was talking about. Okay, let me give you an update. The Agwe panel is still on the back porch, but it's under the canopy. The Go Labs, I'm gonna let it try and dry, but I can kind of see water in it. And the way the device is set up, there are slots on the side. And it's not just a slot up top for the fan. The whole side is slotted until you get about that much down at the bottom of the base. And on this side of it, I can kind of see little droplets of water. So I'm pretty much going to consider that unit trash. I don't think I can do anything. I'm not going to risk putting power into it for a long time if I ever try to put power into it at all again. My counter says there are 8 people in here. Thank you guys for coming back. Somebody did tell me that Go Labs possibly has a bigger one coming out, a 500 watt-hour one. So I might email them and see what's good. Beene, welcome back. Rainwater doesn't have minerals in it. Should dry out no problem. Interesting. Came to win. What's happening? That is a very interesting thought, Beene. We'll see. I was laughing to myself like I can't put that in a bag of rice. That sucks. I'm not really down about it, to be honest. I mean, stuff happens. It's okay. I like the Go Labs R300. If it doesn't work again, I mean, it still powers on and all that jazz, but I feel like I'm playing with fire at that point to mess around with it too much. But if I lose it, oh well. I water cooled the PC once, ended up dousing the whole motherboard, turned it off and dried it out. Didn't have an issue. Welcome back, Keldria. Y'all can see my mood is all like mellow. It could just be the living room. I'm not sure. Dehumidification. Okay, I have a dehumidifier in my basement. I'm going to put it down there. That's a good idea, man. Thank you. Thank you. You're doing it for the culture. Solar culture, that is. That's a good one. That's a good idea. I'm gonna do that. As soon as I get off of here, I'm gonna bring it down into the basement and turn the dehumidifier on and see what's happening. I also have an air conditioner. I also have air conditioners that have dehumidifier features in them, and they work actually really well. I tested it out in my kid's room, and we had like a humidity monitor in there, and sure enough, the humidity dropped. That's a good idea. Thank you for that. So something that was on my list to talk about is, so I decided on the AC200 Max. I'm going to try to pre-order it. This will be a good time to put a timestamp in the live if I let this live on. I don't know if I will. Something that I've been thinking about is how will I configure my panels with it? Because I have one 200-watt rich solar. And then I have 4 100-watt panels. Then I have one 200-watt, 190-watt HQST coming. But it's the variance between the 200-watt rich solar and the 200-watt HQST on the voltage and the amps is very nominal. So I'm thinking about how can I use 4 of my 100-watt panels with 1 of my 200-watt panels. So I was thinking I would put 2 100-watt panels in parallel and then put the other 2 in parallel, which essentially makes them one cable. And then I will put those parallel cables in series, right? Because parallel will combine the amps up to 10 amps. And then I have my other panel. Can I get my fingers right? And then I put those in series. And then I end up with one cable coming down. So that's a 200-watt panel at 9.7 amps. That's 2 100-watt panels at like 10 amps. But it may drag down to the other one. That's my understanding. And then another 2 100-watt panels at 10 amps. So I'll probably end up, once I have it in series, once you put it in series, all of those voltages are going to be combined. So that's 20 volts on the 2 100-watt panels. Because remember, parallel doesn't combine the voltages. So that's 20 volts, 20 volts, 20 volts. So that's 40 volts, 600 watts on paper in series. But I'm trying my best to explain it. I hope y'all can follow that. That's the only way I can think to get it to work. The reason why that's important is because if you just string together multiple panels, Beene, maybe you can help me out here. My understanding, I was talking to somebody on one of my comments, is that they will drag down to the lowest common denominator. So if I put a 9.7 amp panel, which is the rich solar 200 watt, and then a 5.5 amp panel down here, 5.5 amps, 9.7, let's just call it, you know what I mean? Then it's going to drag this one down to like the 5 amp range. So all of those panels, my understanding is that all of them will operate at the lowest possible whatever. If you run them in parallel, then they'll meet at the amps, no, the voltage. And if you run them in series, then they'll meet at the amps. I'm going to see if somebody has any insight on that. Ulysses, welcome back. Gary, what's happening? 60 volts, right? But yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, 60 volts. Yeah, 20. Now, here's the interesting thing. That is going to be 5 panels. I have to figure out where to put 5 panels in somewhat close proximity to them so that I can then run them in series. I may end up having to buy more wires. I may just lay them out in my yard, the 4 100-watt panels. I don't know. And the reason why I'm entertaining this idea is because the AC200 Max can take in up to 900 watts of solar input and then an extra 500 watts through the AC port with some type of adapter that may or may not come with the device. So I want to be able to, let's say during the summer, pump as much solar as I can into it so I can run my window AC off of sun power. I may end up, for all I know, I may end up with all my panels going into that dip, honestly, just to accomplish the goal, because this idea of having like panels in the front and down in the basement, that's just me kind of parsing it out to be strategic. But at the end of the day, I just want to use the sun. I don't care what it gets used on. Sure, it's fun to use solar to power your laptop and to watch TV, but power usage is power usage. 60 watts here versus 700 watts there. So taking two panels or one panel off of there to get 100 watts into a power station to give this 60 watts is just like, just power the thing that's largest and, you know, be a grown up about it, right? Grow it, eat it. What's happening? Beene says 60 volts, right? But yeah, that sounds right. Then he also says, yep, if you have a 5 and a 10 amp panel in series, it will be like the 10 amp panel is shaded down to 5 amps. Yeah, that's my understanding. Which is interesting because I think it was Ulysses. He put me on a path of finding out how many amps you get when it's overcast, because, well, even still, so the question was, if you put the panels in whatever configuration, series or parallel or whatever, and it's not sunny out, then you wouldn't be getting as much amps of volts in the first place or whatever it is. But that still kind of hampers it, because a 100 watt panel in overcast wouldn't put out as many amps as a 200 watt panel overcast. So then it would still draw that panel down to the lowest one. So it's almost not worth it. Because unless you only have one power station, if you only have one power station and you have two mismatched panels, then you might as well put them together, because I don't know if there's any damage. Beene, you can let me know. I hate calling you Beene. I know that's not your name, but that's what we see here. You might as well put those panels together. I'm not suggesting that you guys do that. I'm just thinking out loud. But if you only have one power station and two mixed match panels and you want to get more power, you're essentially taking whatever okay, that's why it doesn't make sense. So let's say I have a 100 watt, which I actually have, and then a 50 watt, and I want to put those together. I might as well just use the 100 watt instead of putting the 100 watt and the 50 watt together. So ignore all of that stuff about putting mixed match panels together. It doesn't make any sense. I take it all back. It can take 145 volts of solar. Can't you just series them all? Yes, you can, but if you series them all together, because they're different panels, it's going to essentially turn the 200 watt panel and the 190 watt panel, depending on which one I put in that string, into a 100 watt panel. It's like, why do that? I could just keep the 200 watt on the EB70 or the EcoFlow River and just string together all four of my 100 watt panels in series. Does that make sense, Sati? So essentially what I'm trying to do is I'm turning my two 100 watt panel pairs into 200 watt panels to match up with the 200 watt panel, so that none of them kind of drags the other down. The cabling system will see them all as providing 9 point some odd. Wait. It gets complicated. If I put them in parallel, the voltage stays the same in the amps. Okay, yeah. It essentially will see that setup, for the sake of conversation, as 3 panels putting out 200 watts. I shouldn't say watts. Putting out around 20 volts and around 8 to 9 amps. It sees all 3 of those sets. It sees the first set as 20 volts and 8 or 9 amps. It sees the second set of 2 as 20 volts at 8 or 9 amps. And then it sees this one, at the 200 watt one, as 20 volts at 8 to 9 amps. Does that make sense? Hey, MJ, welcome back. Sleeper, welcome back. Kimber Jack, what's happening? Jason, what's going on? I have accumulated several solar panels and large inverters looking to power 80% from off-grid solar. Looking to put my panels mostly in a permanent place. Any advice on how to proceed? You have accumulated several panels and large inverters to power 80% from off-grid. Looking to put my panels mostly in a permanent place. That's a very vague, specific question. Like, what are you curious about? This is not my area of expertise, but I've watched enough videos to try and answer your question to the best of my ability. Thanks, Gary. I'm glad that makes sense. 2-pack Renergy going on Amazon now. Oh, and Beene is good. It's what I'm called at work. Okay, my first name is too many syllables. I'm curious about it. I always like to understand what people's actual names are, especially like of other cultures. I just think that that's respectful. People will tell me their nickname, and I'm like, well, what's your whole name? Or is this how you pronounce your whole name? And I do pretty good with that. Beene says, I like your idea of paralleling the 100-watt panels, essentially making them a pair of 200-watt panels, right? Yeah. Sati says, yeah, brain fart. I forgot that the panels run at different amps. I was just thinking of them as 12-volt panels. Yeah, I gotcha. Now, there you go, Beene. I don't understand that. You said, but you could run the 100-watt and 200-watt panels in parallel just fine, as long as the current input isn't exceeded on the power station. Y'all want to know what's something funny as I process that? I said this at the beginning, but if I lose power now, then I'll just be sitting here in the dark. Because I'll have internet and everything will keep working. It's a laptop that I'm using for the live. The webcam is on the laptop. So I got a lamp right here. When we first bought our first set of like lights for YouTube, my wife got them. There's probably like $50. Got like an umbrella to like diffuse the light and everything, and it just looked like garbage. So now that I have a somewhat decent webcam, I'm probably gonna get a decent pair of lights. Cause yeah, this looks okay though. It's not terrible. But you could run the 100-watt and 200-watt panels in parallel just fine. So a 200-watt rich solar in parallel with a 100-watt panel. Yeah, it's like this. I think it's the same thing. It's going to drag it down. Hey, Kimbers, what's up? I'm a little jealous that you got your panel and I didn't. I haven't even gotten a dip that says, hey, we shipped it. It's crazy. I wonder if the order is going to like get canceled or something, or they're going to run out of stock, and I'll be okay with it. Sati says, would individual MPPTs for each panel solve this by maximizing? There must be a way that isn't too expensive. Sounds like no matter what, there is some losses. I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, no matter what, there is some losses. That sounds complex. One thing I like about you, Sati, is you're always thinking about interesting ways to accomplish things. It's a little too complex for me. I like to keep solar simple. It's right in the banner. I'm not into the tinkering and all that. Hey, Lauren. They're still selling them for $169. I was telling, I believe, All in the Soil, that I don't think that price is going to fluctuate too much. HUST panels are typically budget friendly and they don't really change. The highest I've seen, they're 100-watt panels that typically cost like 80, 83. It's like 89. So I'm not necessarily fearful that it's going to change too much. So the issue I'm going to run into is, where am I going to place these panels? I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to place them. They are, I know for a fact, I also don't know where I'm going to put the AC200 Max. Again, it goes back to this idea of like, I know it's a cool toy. You kind of want to have it right on the floor next to you, but is it more beneficial to have that dip down in the basement versus on my top floor? And it's like, I'll have to come to terms with that, especially with regard to panel placement, because those HQSD panels are pretty sizable. The Renogy panels are a little more compact. I actually did a measurement in the square area, whatever, and they are smaller, but I could put all of those in parallel just fine, and then run them into the AC200 Max. Or I could just take the two 200-watt panels and run those in the AC200 Max. So it's like 6 one way, half a dozen another. But ideally, I want to be able to have those 4 panels together with one 200-watt panel and get as much power as that's going to produce. And it's not going to get 600 watts. I don't think it's even going to get close. What's 80% of 600? 10%, 60, 540 minus another 60, 480. So at best, I'd probably get like 480 from it. Realistically, I'd probably get like 403 something from that. And that's going to suck, but it's more than I can get now. Modesto, what's happening? Miss Queen, I'm just being nosy. All right, Miss Queen. Well, this is a solar channel. I've had some issues with my lives all day, so I was just like, let's just come in and hang out. But thank you for being nosy, and thank you for stopping by. Try both places. Moving that generator. Nice. I think what I should do is probably plug this lamp in, and I'm gonna unplug this computer because I don't need no surge problems. Can I plug this lamp in? Okay, try both places. Moving that generator will be a workout. I could use the calories being burned, that's for sure. Gary, with all of its shortcomings, I'm still leaning towards the AC200 Max as well. Been going back and forth. What shortcomings do you feel like it has, Gary? I'm curious. Beene says, do you have, I lost it. Do you have places to permanently mount your panels? Yeah, I'm not into permanently mounting them. I just set them out for convenience, and I'm not planning to mount them at all. They're just going to sit out in the yard. I thought about like making something, and when I say that very loosely because I'm not that guy. This lightning is cutting up. Let me take a second and get at least some light as an alternative in case my electricity comes out. Give me 1 second, guys. The lamp is literally right here. I'm wired in, so I gotta grab it. Alrighty. See if this wire's gonna reach. Will you reach, wire? Yes, you will. I'm plugging it into the Agwe. The Agwe power station was outside, but it didn't get wet. Okay, Gary, I'm looking forward to what you see it as a shortcoming for the AC200. I talked about that one. Something that I want to rig up into my grid, maybe on an essential loads panel. Silver Symbol has a video doing it. I think he does have a couple videos about that. I like the idea. The essential loads panel is the same concept. It's like, yeah, you want to be cool and like run the kids' Xbox and the TV off of solar, but at the end of the day, it's really about just reducing my draw from the grid. So if that means doing like a transfer panel where I was essentially put, I don't know how that works, because when you switch it over, I think what I'm looking for is a transfer switch and to put some things on that switch, because my understanding of watching some people, when they have that thing, you have to switch it over and then it turns off everything on one panel and reroutes that energy to the other panel. I don't know if they can exist together. You have to do something else. I'm still kind of learning. I'm not going to endeavor to do anything like that in the future. Sati, I like that idea of getting that device from Amazon. I want to try that, but it's dangerous, man. You can't run those things at full load. They'll burn out and they could catch fire. I'm not saying that I know anybody who's caught fire, but it's my understanding that they can start smoking and burn out, and who knows where that can lead. Kimberjack, today was overcast, but still saw it reach 147 watts, hovered around 135. Definitely easier to work with one bigger and heavier exclamation point panel instead of two. Yeah. My Rich solar panel, I don't consider that panel to be heavy. But I don't have to move it around a whole lot. But I guess I'm also used to carrying around the two HQST panels, and those things are unwieldy. So anything is easier than that. Bobcat, what's happening? Mrs. Queen, I have solar panels. That's what's up. What's your favorite solar power generator? My husband gave me permission to purchase one. I'm doing so much research to purchase the right one. So you have solar panels on your house, Miss Queen? Mrs. Queen? B says, believe me, I'm not judging. I have 1600 watts sitting in the, how did the fly get in here? Sitting in the yard, not mounted. That's what's up. Eddie T says he hates Kickstarter. Kimber's ass was that thunder. Yes, it was. What's up, Joe? What's up, Ive? I'm excited about the AC200 Max. The 300 is a little steep. Plus, probably couldn't get one until November. Welcome back, CJ Loyola. Is that CJ? Oh, silly. I have to pay attention to the capital letters. CJ at Loyola. What does that mean? There's a school down in Louisiana, New Orleans, called Loyola, I believe. I haven't been there in so long. I'm starting to lose references to things. Okay, I have to see these lives. I have to say these lives are the real deal. We can see what goes through during the storm situation. It's funny because this almost never happens. And even when I lost power, it's literally just a blip, which is typical. Sometimes we lose a power for a second. We can tell by the stove clock. Matthew, where are you at? Where are you at? I'm doing like that. I guess Matthew's saying like he's dealing with some weather too. Touchscreen. Gary says, I asked him about his cons for the AC200 Max. He says, touchscreen versus physical buttons, weight. I just feel like separating the battery would be better like the Titan. That's interesting. Also, not too thrilled about the aviation plug versus Anderson. That's interesting, Gary. Freaking fly in here. What the heck? And that is annoying. It's a vigorous one, too. All right, I'm going to try to not let it annoy me. Modesto says, thanks for your advice. Got the EcoFlow Ripper 600. Jeez, freaking horsefly. I'm going to have to Obama that dip in a second. My gosh, what's going on? Okay, lighting still seems okay. The AC300 is like the Titan, though, in terms of being modular. That thing is heavier. I have the sight up. Let me look at the dip, because that thing is a lot heavier. It's almost as much as the AC200. I feel like the page switched on me. It's also 3,000 watt hours of LiFePro batteries. Okay, yeah, the AC300, 44 pounds with no battery. The AC200 Max, 61 pounds. And then the batteries are... That thing is too heavy. The battery for the AC300, the B300, is 74 pounds. What do you do with that? The top level part is 44 pounds. That's like a Delta Max. Isn't that dip like 100 pounds? The Delta Pro. That's crazy, man. That is crazy. But the Titan is heavy too, and the Titan doesn't use LiPo. Sati says an automatic transfer switch might work. Set up the switch to grid power once the AC200 runs out of power. That's interesting. Ratatusk. When I have funding at CJ Atloil, I read the stay brand consistent if I'm going to be stacking components. 240 volt. I mean, I don't remember the context. Sati. Oh, okay. I wish the AC30 was cheaper because I really want 240 volt option like it has, but I don't want to spend so much. Yeah. Byron, what's happening, man? Thanks for stopping by. Keldria says, is there a downside to using the flexible panels besides them breaking? Was thinking to buy a temporary one with the EB70. All right, here's the thing about flexible panels from what I've deduced from all the videos that I watch. They're not good for constant use, just like the folding panels. But if you're just going to throw out a panel, like, for example, a lot of people are returning back to work with the other, you know what I mean, the We Fly High variant. Stuff is getting interesting again, but most people are at work during the sunny days. So if you came home at like 4 or 5 o'clock and you wanted to get a little bit of power and you just threw your flex panel out there, like, yeah, I get that. But if you're going to have those panels out and run a wire through your window, and that's the panel that you'll use to get power all the time, get a rigid panel. But if you just want to have something, I think I was talking to MJ about that. If you're just going to have something to kind of just toss out there when you want to take advantage of the sun for a few hours and you bring it in and all that jazz, then yeah, I mean, I get flexible panels. But my understanding is that the flexible panels, if you just let that heat hammer on them day in and day out, they will degrade. And Will Prouse has not updated it necessarily. I guess it's because, so he gives folding flexible panels a hard time because he feels like, and I find myself in this situation, he feels like when you first get them, you'll be excited about the output, but after a few months, maybe 6, that output will drop. So I have one of those panels and I'm going to see. Yeah, so that would be a good time. That's wheel it with a dolly territory. Beene is talking about how much the AC300 is going to weigh. Yeah, man, that's a lot of weight. Yeah. Now, how do you say that? Pywhacket? Folding, not designed for every day. I feel the same. I'm going to have to feel the same way about flexible. My flexible panel, I have a SunPower 50 watt flexible panel. And I don't use it all the time. I throw it out there sometimes. I throw it out in the yard on like RIP the R300. We'll see. Hey, Miss Beverly. What's happening? Miss Queen, the Blue Eddy 1000/2400 watt hours, $14.99. Blank blank. Is that right? If so, why? What's your question? Are you just asking why does it cost so much? I mean, you're getting 2400 watt hours for $1,500. Now, I don't think anybody should buy that device right now. It's kind of tough to justify. You get what, 400 extra watt hours for like $200 less than what the AC200P costs, and then the same $200 less than what the AC200 Max is going to cost. The Max is just the AC200P with like a couple more bells and whistles. But you know, that's a decent price, I guess. $1,500 for 2400 watt hours. I mean, if it was $1,500 for 3400 watt hours, you'd be at 50 cents a kilowatt, 50 cents a watt. So that's probably about like 65, 70 cents a watt. That's not bad. Which panel you recommend for the EcoFlow River and why? Honestly, the EcoFlow River is easy to get panels for. I mean, you get 2 100 of anything. You get 1 200 of anything and you're fine. That's easy. It's that EB70 that's tough. B3 Outdoor says my first panel, I see UK fees. My first panel was in 2010, Anchor 21 watt. I have the 15 watt right now for $50. They still sell it, but for 70. Yeah, I have that dip upstairs. That was actually the first way that I got into solar. That Anchor folding panel. Having power when the lights is out has always been important to me. Um, the Agua is holding up the same way, but just like I feel about the flexible panel, I don't use it all the time. I just had a kind of bit of a revelation today. Not, nothing major, but I switched things up a little bit. I used to have my Agua upstairs on a 50-watt panel just because I typically don't have a panel up there, but because my wife hangs out up there a little more, sometimes I hang out in that back room that leads to my back balcony. I wanted to have solar up there because I have enough panels and I have enough power stations. My 50-watt Renogy was just sitting down in the basement or sitting here in my den. So I figured I'd toss it up there, and I have an MC4 extension laying around. I actually have another one laying around. But anyway, that was up there and it was charging the Agua. One thing I don't like about the Agua power station is it's not properly matched. If you watch my video about what to think about before you buy a power station, the Agua is a bit of a cautionary tale. It's still a budget-friendly device. The rules kind of change for budget-friendly devices, but overall, it's a 300 some odd watt capacity watt-hour device, and it charges at 60 watts. And 60 watts is the highest. That's not necessarily a good match. It takes about 6.7 hours to charge fully, and that's in like great sun. So I had it up there on a 50-watt panel. You think realistically, a 50-watt panel probably puts out about 35 watts. That one probably puts out like 32 or 37 or whatever. Laying flat, if it's not perfectly angled, it probably puts out a little less. Perfectly angled, maybe it puts out a little bit more. That 40 watts it barely makes a dent, and that's 40 watts an hour. Keep that in mind. It's not instantaneous. You gotta wait a whole hour to get that 40 watts. The sun changes, clouds roll by. It's just a pain. Ultimately, what I decided was I took the Agua down here and I bought my Bowden's upstairs. That one only charges at about 40 watts, so I feel like that would be a better pair, and it's only a 166 watt hour device. So 3-4 hours of 40 watts, and you're pretty much close to being full on that dip. So that's a better pairing. The Agua panel, long story long, right? Okay, fees. The Agua panel gets used sparingly. So I put it out today. As you know, it got rained on. It got rained on pretty good. I hope it's still working, honestly. I forgot that stuff was down there. This is why I like rigid panels. I don't have to worry about my rigid panels being outside. I put it on the Agua. I bought it down and I put the Agua panel out there and I plugged that in. Actually, no, I plugged it into the Go Labs. That's what it was plugged into, because the Go Labs tells me how much power is coming in. So I wanted to see, what kind of power I would get. I didn't pay close attention, but I had the Agua on a 100 watt rigid panel and then the Go Labs on the Agua folding panel. That was a long rant. Mrs. Queen says, I really don't understand. Please don't judge me. Okay, thank you. I guess it's a good price. You say don't purchase now. Did I hear that right? I was saying I don't know who should purchase the Bluetti 24 or EV240. I just don't know. Okay, I have folding panels as well, CJ, at Loyola. I do not use them every day. I only use it once so far to make sure it works. I'm looking into rigid panels for everyday use. Okay, cool. Yes, is that good? Mrs. Queen says. So in my other live, I talked about the EB150. The EB240 is essentially the EB150 with a bigger battery. So all the drawbacks that the EB150 has, the EB240 has. It only charges at about 100 some odd watts from the wall, which I think is, with the 240, that's even amplified. That's kind of pathetic. It says it's capable of 500 watts of solar, but you can't get that with 12 panels. They're just, because of the amp limit and the voltage limit, it's weird. I can't really explain that on the fly. You would have to get two, and this is per Solar Will, want to give him credit. You have to get two 24 volt, 250 watt panels to even get close to the 500 watts. So I just felt like that device was really limiting for me as a person who's trying to get comfortable with spending $1,700 on a portable power station. Celsius rules, is the new EcoFlow Max the way to go for the most power available? It's okay. I mean, you have to compare that to the EB55, 500 watts for $500, right? That's how much it is. CJ at Loyola, I left you a comment on your 50 watt video inquiring about a rigid panel. I was just wondering your thoughts based on the specs. I'll have to check that. I try to reply to as many comments as I can. Right now, I'm doing pretty good with replying to all of them. But as the channel grows, that'll get harder. Please forgive me in advance. My Bourgeois V rigid panels just shrugged off golf ball size hail last week. Nice. Roof needs replacing. Panels are fine. Ouch. What's the EB55? It's by Bluetti. It's basically a smaller version of the EB70. It's pretty much the EB70 with 500 watt hours instead of 716. And there's some nuances and things like that, but it's pretty much its little brother. Is it necessary to ground your panels? I'm not an expert on that, but as far as I know, no. I think you have to ground like large arrays that you have kind of like out in the yard and stuff like that. But I don't even know if there's a way to ground. I guess you would hook something to the panel and plug it into the ground. I don't know. That's what's up, man. What's the Loyola reference? Did I miss that, CJ? Byron Morris says, I think prices will increase overnight. Places are losing parts to make solar. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Man, who knows what the future holds, what's kind of bubbling. It's an interesting time for sure. I'm not a history person, so, you know, it could be something similar to many other times. It could be no reason for concern, but it's interesting. Beene says, or if you don't need a small panel, grab a used panel locally that's 200 to 300 watts. Might find it for 25 cents a watt. Speaking of finding panels locally, Beene is in Texas, and as far as I remember, he sells panels. Now, Texas is huge, so I don't know what part of Texas he's in, but I mean, it's a road trip. And he does all kinds of stuff. Y'all check out his channel. He just had a little one, so it's not as many videos there, but I enjoyed some of his previous videos. I'm not a DIYer, so it doesn't quite appeal to me, but there are some cool videos that I checked out of his. Thank you for those videos, sir. Think of buying the AC200 Max as a business expense for your channel. I haven't set up the channel in business since. I thought about that. PayPal kind of sent me down that rabbit hole because it gives you some options when you do a business account. But they add the first hurdle I ran into. They asked me for my fictitious name or my EIN, and I don't have a fictitious name or EIN. So yeah. I don't know how that works in terms of taxes, B3. But it's interesting. Gary says he's in Texas too. Nice, MJ. Beene. Newborn on YouTube. Look for womb sounds. Game changer. Game changer for the kiddo. Game changer. Not white noise. Just look up womb sounds. Clutch. Oklahoma, what's happening? Okay, so I have the EB240 and the SP120 folding solar panel. Then I bought a Renogy 100 watt for faster charging. Would it be better to get another Renogy or another folding panel? I don't know, Esto. I'm not sure. That depends on your needs. I'm a rigid panel guy because I want sun all day. If the sun is out, I want it on my panels. But if I know you get busy. But if you want portability, then yeah, I mean, you could get another portable panel. I don't know. I'm not sure. The EB240, you can put those panels in series without a problem up to a certain point, probably like 3. 3 is the max I would do, 20, 40, 60. And that's even sketchy. You may not be able to put 3 panels because those folding panels live at higher voltages. And you got to be really careful about the open circuit voltage. I felt so silly in that video. It's like, duh, open circuit. The circuit is open. It's not closed. That's what open circuit voltage is. So people have commented that say open circuit voltage is the voltage that you get from your panels when it's not connected to anything. So if you put your panels on the ground in the sun, the 2 wires hanging out, you take a voltmeter or whatever, and you plug it into the positive and negative, that the voltage that you get is your open circuit voltage. And that's how you test panels to make sure that they're okay, that they're putting out the type of voltage that they should. Geez, this is tight. I'll show that. YouTube hid that one. Beene, it's not easy on mobile, but if you're on a computer, once you put @ and start typing someone's name, it starts to autocomplete. If you're on a phone, you have to type it out word for word, or letter for letter, I should say, to tag someone, quote unquote. That's really weird, which is why when I'm on mobile and people say hi to me, I feel bad because I'm so used to being at a computer because I want to acknowledge people directly. But when you're on a phone, it's not worth it. So when Maria says hey to me, I just be like, hey, Maria. Whereas like, oh, here I can do it pretty easy by just typing in MAR and it'll pull her up. So Modesto, I'm gonna sit with that question for a little bit because I'm sketchy. I have to get a great deal on the device to make me veer off the beaten path. And I'm looking at how close can I get to 50 cents a watt to consider something that's a no-name brand. Like that Jackery, I got it for a third of the price. That's the only reason why I took a chance on it. If I had spent $300 and some odd on that device, it'd be a real problem. I'm already dragging their name through the mud where it belongs, but yeah, it'd be an issue. But yeah, So with the EB240, so what I would do is Oklahoma asked about her panel setup with her EB240, which is the 24 watt hour capacity device from Bluetti. She has a folding SP120, and then she bought a Renogy 100 watt panel, and she's asking if she should get another folding panel or a rigid panel. What I would do is I would get another rigid panel, and you could easily keep your folding panel in the house and have your 2 rigid panels kind of run the show whenever, you're not home or you're at work or you're out and you don't want to be worried about it. And then when you're home, like say on a Saturday and you want to pull in as much power as you can, you could just go out there, disconnect one wire from one of the leads going into your MC4 adapter cable, and in series add your SP120 to the series. Now, what you have to be careful about is what I said earlier. But the answer is I would go a rigid panel. You have to be careful that those panels, when they're put together in series, that they don't exceed your voltage of the EB240, which I believe is like 60 volts. Okay, Lowe's, good to see you. It's been a while. EB240 and 150 up to 68 voltage. open current, VOC. So you might be able to fall right under that threshold because the Renogy's are going to sit at, I think their open circuit is probably going to be like 21. So 42, yeah, that's still sketchy because those folding panels sometimes live at like 25 open circuit voltage. So what's that? That might just come right under. I think Hobotech talked about how some people's EB150s are a little more tolerant of the voltage. So they may get like, they may have a tolerance for like 70. And then some people's dips may have a tolerance for like, oh, maybe it's not the, maybe it's the panels. He talked about those Bouge RV panels because they used to make a 170 and then they got rid of the 170 and started making a 180. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to plug myself here, but I appreciate it. I'm in North Texas, man. Look, I'm all about sharing the. If you know anything about YouTube, people very rarely subscribe to just one person for all the information. So it's not competition, man. It's collaboration. So I shout out Beene, I shout out T and Frank, I shout out JSAUX. Who else makes cool videos? The guy, he just started his something DIY. I can't remember his name. Shoot. He has a DIY channel. I've talked about him before. He's kind of starting his channel up, but you know, I don't mind. I'm not selfish in that way. You know, just is what it is. Oh, so what I was saying is the Bouge RV 170 and the 180, they have slight voltage differences. And what Hobotech was saying with the 180, you couldn't put 3 of those in series on like the EB150 because the voltage runs a little higher and it exceeds that 68 according to Lowell's voltage limit on that device. That's another thing that, as I spoke about in the other live, that steered me away from the EB150. That voltage is just too low. I'm not going to spend that much money on 1 or 2 of them to only be limited in the amount of solar that I could put into it. I like to be able to future proof myself. Yeah, Jehu is famous. He YouTube famous. So I'm talking about like kind of up and coming channels, Modesto. I was on one of Jehu's lives, man. It was cool hanging out with his viewers. I wasn't necessarily even listening to the podcast episode. I was just chatting with people in there and it was pretty cool. It was a premiere, so he was in chat too. So I was able to like chat with him a little bit. Nothing specific. I mean, you know, there's so many people in there. Okay. My wife sent me a voice message that I cannot listen to right now. So, I mean, you know, I've landed on the AC200 I'm going to try and pre-order it. I actually emailed Bluetti because I worked with them in the past, but there was like a person who was pretty much working with anybody who did like solar channels. I don't necessarily feel that I was special. I don't even know if she's still with the company. I reached out to that person. I haven't heard anything back, but I'm about to email them again. Just to see like if we could work together again in some capacity. I'm open. Why not? Right? Tangerine says, I'm in Tyler, Texas. When Beene says North Texas, does he mean my area or North is in the Panhandle? I'm just getting into solar and have lots of questions. Yeah, he would have to answer that. But even still, that's still a trip that you could make, you know, if you wanted to get some panels and a device from him. My understanding is that he has had in the past like packages and things like that. Silver Stacks got me really interested in a cart system. I don't know if I would ever build that system, but it's just like he just had like his MPPT dip. He had his batteries down in the bottom. And they were like on boards. He had an inverter in there. I was like, man, that was cool. That looked really simple. I wonder if all of those fuses and stuff are necessary if you wire your stuff in such a way that it's just wired properly. Like I know you need those things to protect electronics, but if you were going to only use it when you were like home, do you need all of that stuff? Because that's how I feel about the little Amazon DIY like grid inverter dips. Like I would never leave my house with that thing plugged in, ever. I wouldn't trust it. But if I was here, it's like if I'd plug it in somewhere easily and I'd monitor it all day. I wouldn't be on top of it, but I'd work it out. So if something started smoking, if I smelled it, I could just turn it off. I would never leave that stuff running. So I don't know. What do you think, Bean? Lowe says, yeah, I was looking at running 6 100-watt panels in series parallel with the 150, but will hold out for newer tech. Good to catch you live. Gary says, another possible item of concern for the AC200 is the connector for the expansion battery. Is it proprietary? I'm going to say yes. Yes. Now, here's my thing. With something so big and so capable, I almost don't care about the proprietary nature of the connections. Because, I mean, you're not going to unplug that to plug something else in. That thing is a beast. And that's my position. I haven't thought it completely through. But I do have a thing about connectors and wanting them to be more universal. But yeah, I don't know. The other thing is it's a nice connector. It's like very smart, very thought out. You have to kind of like line it up and snap it in. It won't come out easily and stuff like that. So that is a concern. Led was talking about Led Former 73. He was talking about how you could buy. I mean, he wasn't talking about it specifically. He wasn't the one who brought the revelation, but he was talking about how you could use 2 AC adapters. Hobotech has talked about this as well to charge your AC200P and to charge your AC200 Max. I think that's peculiar. I don't think I would ever get into that because I think 500 watts. I do like that the AC200 Max charges at 500 watts. That's pretty cool. 500 watts is enough. 500 watts per hour is pretty good. I have to catch up Randerton to the grill. What's he grilling, MJ? Sati says, yes, they don't want you buying affordable batteries elsewhere, but you could buy those batteries from Jehu. Jehu makes those batteries and sells them. I think that's so compelling. I just don't have anything that could take that voltage. All of his dips are 24 volts and 36 volts and stuff like that. But that stuff is really affordable. I would probably look into that when I get my Max. I probably would. Jerk chicken, fancy. Jerk chicken. Okay. I feel like I had something recently that I had never had before. And it was delicious. Shoot. I used 5 chargers on the old Gold Zero 3000. That's interesting, man. Byron says he uses 5 chargers on the old Gold Zero. When I first started looking into power, because I wasn't always into solar, I knew I would get into solar eventually, but my main concern was if the power goes out or if I see a storm coming, I want to have some type of battery to charge so I could be able to run my stuff. That Gold Zero, it had me so intrigued just from the stance of you could buy a separate charger and charge it with 2 chargers to like push power into it faster. I thought that was so dope. I remember the feeling of not being able to find that video because there weren't a lot of videos on it. And when I found that video again, it gave me like so much joy. Like, yeah, I found the video. Dude, the audio was like terrible or something like that. But I thought it was cool. You could charge that from 2 AC adapters. I thought that was super cool. Those Gold Zeros, but they can miss me with all that cost and all that jazz. I'm cool on all of that. I can't wait to tell the missus about my freaking power station, man. That hurts, but not really. It's just like I'm down one. which is going to be interesting because that means I'm going to have to kind of revamp my system that I have going on. Right now, my Rock Pals just lives in the garage. I don't even bring it up into the house. Although sometimes I bring it up at night to run my TV because it has 300 watt hours of capacity, like 288 or something like that. My TV only uses 50, so it could power for like 4 to 5 hours, which is pretty cool. But right now, I've been using it down in the basement to just charge up other power stations, and I may bring a battery pack or two down there to like just draw power from it. But I've been letting it live down there. It'll get full relatively quickly, and then if I have a power station that needed to be charged, then I will bring it down there. But because I got the sun power, because I had the Agwe, I have so many panels now. I don't find myself bringing stuff down there to charge that much anymore. The downside about the Rock Pals is the 12 volt is not regulated, so I can't do DC to DC charging. I have to do, DC to AC and then AC to DC. So I'm losing all around on that one. But the Rock Pals, the company refunded me my money because I had an issue with it. So all the power that comes off of that is free. So, I don't care as much. But with me being down one power station, I may have to pull the Rock Pals out of the basement and put it somewhere else and put it to use. I also, guys, I thought about multiple times buying the AC30 again because they say it can pull in 150 watts. I won't do it because once I get the AC200 Max, then my EcoFlow is going to essentially be the one designated for this area to charge outside, sadly, until I figure out how to run wires into my coax cable hole. So I'm just kind of holding off. Well, with the Go Labs going down, I don't know. I may entertain trying to replace it. Mrs. Queen says, I have small solar panels in my window that charge my kids' game, remote tablets, etc. This solar life is super cool. I have so much to learn, honestly. It's like learning a new language. Yeah, it's a lot. Rick, what's happening? I had to send my VELOGK solar gen back for a replacement. That's interesting. That VELOGK came up recently and I looked into it. I think somebody messaged me about it. I am on Telegram, guys, under Ask I've Solar, one word. Telegram is a pretty popular messaging app that's kind of privacy focused. It kind of sits in the middle. So if you ever want to chat it up, hit me up on Telegram. So you have a lot of solar powered generators. Yeah. What happened to the Go Labs, Kimberjack? It got rained on today. Stacks, what's happening? Come through with the coins. Man, he says, what up? With it, loved one. Here goes something on whatever you're getting. And 5 for the kids. That's me, man. That's why I rock with you. Don't be giving them kiddos all my guap. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate it greatly. If it's a single string of panels, you don't need a fuse. Most batteries now have a BMS, which is technically a fuse. So theoretically, yes, you could go without fuses. Beene, man, that's why I rock with you, man. That's why I like that stuff that you be doing over there, because I don't think a lot of people are doing it. Oh, Mrs. Queen, I do have quite a few. I have the EB70, I have the EcoFlow River. So when people ask me, should they get the EB70, the Blue Eddy EB70, I very rarely say the name, or the EcoFlow River Base Max or Pro. My thing is, it was a hard decision, so I got both. That's not what I set out to do. My first power station that I purchased was the EcoFlow because I like the fact that it had so many features for such a low cost of entry. What I mean is the EcoFlow River is the same across all 3 of those devices. So the top tier one has a 600 watt inverter. The cheap one has a 600 watt inverter. All of them can charge in 90 minutes. All of them can take in 200 watts of power. So it was like, cool, I'll just get the base one, have all of that capacity in terms of all of that capability without spending as much coin. I think that that's genius. Kimberjack, did I answer? My lips got rained on. Dang it. My man Stacks, I appreciate you, brother. Rick says his inverter messed up, dropping volts from 120 down to 88 within 30 minutes. That is interesting. I don't know enough about that to have any input. Modesto, I DIY'd a power bank with a 2000 inverter and then deep cycle marine batteries, and it gives me 18 hours for my TV and antenna. That's what's up. CJ says I only what? Love, like, hate, bought, purchased, stole. The Blue Eddy EB70 and the Jackery Explorer 300. The hubby and I use the Blue Eddy. The kids get the Jackery. Man, I like that Jackery 300. Jackery needs to hear me clearly. Jackery needs to take that 300 and the 500 needs to be made in its image and the 1000 needs to be made in its image. That is, I think it's shameful and sad that Jackery 500, I don't even think it has a USB-C PD port on it. Don't get me to, what's the word when you talk bad about somebody publicly? I think it starts with an L. Shoot, I don't know. Don't get me to talking bad about them, but it's crazy that they got so many things right on that Jackery 300. It can charge from the USB-C and the wall. I mean, that's dope. Okay, Nuke says Jackery needs to update the models and get rid of those stupid handles. Will Pross reviewed the Jackery 1000 and he got like 4 minutes in and he was just like, I don't think you guys would like this, so I'm not going to keep reviewing it. He talked about how they just keep making it bigger, same handle, same less. Man, Jackery's off the chain. Byron says, when I have short power outage, I use the gel batteries for energy. Oh, I know where I was going mentally. I like that idea that Will had where he was using his panels with a buck. I think he was using a buck inverter or a boost. One of those inverters. And he was using solar power without a battery. I want to try that too. I want to try those Amazon cheap, get the power in and plug it right into your wall. You got to be very careful with that stuff, though. Slander, that's the word. So the L is what I was looking for. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Satit. Slander, libel is written. There you go, man. I'm like all over the place, putting together multiple words, gently moving. Thanks. Good to see you. Hanging out in the cut. CJ, I agree wholeheartedly. I only bought the the Jackery because of the double charging. Is that the model number? The E300? That's interesting. Joe Tyson, yes about the Jackery. They need to get it together. Liable. Thanks, Lowe's. I got an off-brand power station that surprised me with USB-C charging. I saw something recently that had USB-C charging in. I can't think what it was. Man, that stuff is so cool. I think somebody was messaging me about like one that looked like a Go Labs, but it was a 500 watt, and they got a good deal on it. And it had USB-C charging in. That's so convenient. I love that aspect of things. I really do. Because what that means is, just to make it plain, you could get a USB-C lightning adapter, 12-volt cigarette lighter adapter, and it can put out 60 watts. And then you're charging that dip from another device at 60 watts DC. So there's no loss. So I wouldn't do, I mean, you could do this if you want. Actually, I got one right here. I wouldn't do this USB-C to charge a power station. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, but there's no loss in doing the DC to DC, or very little loss, I should say. But even this, having one of these USB-C to charge your portable power station from like a friend's house or something, if you're on the road, just to get a quick 60 watts because you happen to be hanging around on like that Jackery 300 or something like that. That's dope to not have to carry a power brick you don't even necessarily like, we're getting to the point where people have these things. They don't have as powerful of ones, but like, look at this. You could charge. I love USB C. I love it. I'm a big fan of it. Big fan. I spent a lot of time and a lot of hours trying to find what I consider to be the perfect USB-C adapters. I'm very picky about that. I have a RAV Power one over there right now that has 2 USB-C ports. I believe, I don't know if they're both 100 watts, but I'm pretty sure they're both at least 60 or some type of interesting combination. I'm going to go through and put some links down after I'm done and when I have time in the next like day or so. I'll put some links, some Amazon affiliate links to some devices that I really like. I also have a short that I'm probably going to put out tomorrow about a USB-C cable that I really like, which is essentially, I think the idea I'm going to go for is like supercharge your USB-C port or something like that is the title of the video. But I love those things, man. I love them. I love them. I want more stuff USB-C. Sometimes I won't buy something if it's not USB-C. Right now, I just purchased a USB-C capable rechargeable battery thing. It can charge like about 8 batteries. I don't like how it's set up because it's not slotted. It's just spring loaded and then free flowing. But I'm charging over USB-C. My battery charger before for my like inner loop batteries was AC. So I was losing a little bit of power on the conversion. But now USB-C, charge up my rechargeable batteries, good money. That was a long rant. Let me see what the comments are talking about. Okay, so my hubby is awesome. I have a new in the box 3500 Predator in the garage. Then I started liking solar panels and he was like, okay, whatever you want. That's what's up. I tell my wife all the time, if we can afford it, I don't care what you get. I mean, don't be ridiculous, but if we got a couple coins laying around, no objection. Beene says, so not regulated, you need a current limiter, basically. What kind of current do you need to move between banks? I don't know what that's in reference to. That don't even sound, that sounds fancier than I can understand as well. I shorthanded the Explorer. I got you. That makes sense. I do stuff like that. Like I call the AC200P the ACP and the AC200Max the ACMax. I don't want to confuse people though, because then they'd be like, what are you just talking about the ACP? Modesto for the comment of the night. I think that Jackery thinks like Apple. Same style over and over. Apple, I've talked about this before. Apple is Jackery, is Goal Zero, is, this is going to show my gaming, but is Madden, EA, giving people the same thing over and over, and incremental innovation. I call it slow walking technology. I'm not a fan of it. They can't have my money. Sati says it's the myelin. Really? That myelin is in my radar. The only thing I don't like about it is that they don't say it's LiPo, but I don't know what chemistry it is. You think someone would brag about LiPo if it was, but that myelin is always, somebody emailed me. He emailed me. I replied to him, but he never got my replies, I think because of spam. And I was talking about how I didn't trust like off-brand devices per se. And he commented on the video. He was like, yeah, you bet you don't. I emailed you about the thing and you never got back to me. It's like people are so entitled. Some people are so entitled. I was like, first of all, man, I say clearly in my about page, I'll get to you when I have time. Second of all, I got to you. Did you check your spam? I'm pretty sure, like I replied to that dude, ASAP Ferg. Dude, guy, lady, I think it's a guy. But it was about this myelin. That thing was, it was crazy cheap. I think it was like $299 or something like that. It was like $200 off. And I've seen it comparable, but they start playing with those prices. It was like a $190 coupon, $175, $160, $180. So, but that myelin device was intriguing. I didn't know it had USB-C charging. That's pretty cool. They should all have USB-C charging, says Sati, and it's a universal standard. It's 100 watts now, but soon the standard will be over 200 watts. Interesting. That's why those power bin things are cool. I don't think they're ready for mass production, but they are cool. The power bin are like, I consider them to be like the next version of the battery bank, of the power bank. Defamation. I no lie, y'all. I when I was making that Patriots video for 4 Patriots, I wondered if they would try to like come after me, but then I had to be like, it's YouTube, fam. It's like it's a thoughts, it's a reviews. Relax. Gary says the handle on the Japanese Jackery folds down. That's interesting. I didn't even know there was a Japanese Jackery. Not including it probably only saves penny, Satita saying. Yeah, true. CJ says, I bought the Power ADD 61 watt USB C that I got super cheap on Amazon and 2 60-watt PD cables for $15. Hey, you're better than me. I can't veer off the beaten path too much. I want my stuff to last for a while. Because I'm really picky about, like, I do a lot of research. So shoot, I wish I knew what that thing was. I'll look in my Amazon history in a minute if I have time. I'm just really picky. So the 2 that I have one from Rad Power and I have one from Aki. And then this one is from Aki as well, but it's not as highly rated. It's only 30 watts. 30 watts PD. Excuse me. I wonder where my lovely wife and family have gone. Let me check on them real quick. Y'all forgive me.
It'll be a minute. I mean, I can't quantify it.
Oh, okay. So they're good to go. All right. We were talking about power adapters. Yeah, I'm picky about those. So, but if you're the kind of person who's okay with something lasting you a year, then yeah, save the money. You know, if you get it for $12 and the competition is 30, then you could buy 2 of those for, you know, 2 or 3 of those compared to buying one once, maybe, because, you know, everything can break. Stack says, I got 4 100-watt panels coming today. Interesting, man. I already have 2 200-watt rich solar panels. Should I split them evenly and put 2 100-watt panels with 1 200-watt panel and run it in a series parallel? I was just talking about that earlier. I don't know. In my mind, I would leave the 2. It depends on your situation, but I would leave the 2 200-watt panels by themselves, and I put all the 4 100-watt panels together. I wouldn't do this split thing. It's like, why go through all that? To put a panel in parallel means you have to spend money. So you got to buy a parallel cable. You can't do that without buying those cables. So I would just stick with series. I'm assuming you can do series. My understanding is you have power stations and you also have your cart. So I don't know. That's what I would do. I would leave them all together. 200 watts separate, 400 watts separate. Kevin Link says, if you are looking to step up from the smaller... Oh, that's the family. It's so dark outside, I can't even tell. Oh, that's because somebody's in our parking spot. Oh, man. Shoot. All right, guys, I got to wrap this up and welcome the family in. Link for that adapter. Camry Girl, I'll put links in the dip. Miss Queen, I wish my husband was that lenient. He thinks I have gone solar crazy and refuses to let me buy any more generations. Do you hear me talking? What should you do if daddy's talking? So you know that. You're violating. Satit said Billy Wild Tito, where's the issue? Yes, Saya. Okay, I can't help you right now. Give me a second. Go help your brother take his shoes off. And then go wash your hands. Satis says Power Ben was interesting. Hopotech was so sad. His Power Ben video got a few. Yeah, he was. I can't even watch it again. It was so long. CJ says the Power Ben is out. They have a store now. They started shipping last month. It cost too much money. I get it, but I'm not a fan. Joe Tyson, I suspect that. Jackery. Oh, gotta put the pimp hand down sometimes. Nicole Finling, hell, welcome. It was a rough day. Kiddos is crying. I hope y'all can hear me. I'm just gonna read through these last comments and then I'm gonna sign out of here. I've had a good time hanging out with you guys.
Hi, everybody.
Boom. So, Byron says God gave you a good gift. What's that? Thanks, Beene Mix. I appreciate that. I can't answer that. Shay Baker says, what is the best traveler charger to use in China? I'm not sure. Yes. Yeah, it's an umbrella. Okay, I'm late, but that, yeah. Okay. Joe Tyson said, I suspect that Jackery and Gold Zero engineers their own power bank, unlike the Chinese power banks. And by the way, I believe Jackery was founded by an ex-Appler. Wow, coming through with the info, Joe Tyson. All right, folks. Y'all be beautiful. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. Stacks, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the guys who get at me on Cash App and Venmo and PayPal. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the likes. I appreciate the views. And I appreciate the subs. Y'all be beautiful. I'm out of here.
Excuse me?
Yes.